Am I on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, once upon a time, there was a guy. Let's name him Bob, because Bob is a good name, and Bob's a good guy, and good guys deserve good names. So, Bob was a good guy his whole life. Never did anything wrong to anybody. Treated people well. Was a friend to everyone. Was a friend to the animals and nature and the people in his neighborhood. And so you might be surprised to find out that one day something bad happened to Bob. What bad could happen to Bob? He's such a good guy. I mean, good things don't happen to bad people, and bad things don't happen to good people, so why would something bad happen to Bob? But that's exactly what happened. And here's the story of what happened to Bob that one fateful bad day. So, Bob really liked to eat. And so one day Bob went to the Chinese buffet, and he ate lots of stuff. He ate some rice, and some crab rangoon, and he ate some other stuff, and he ate some sushi, and he ate some, what's that stuff, it's got the little stuff, that stuff. He ate some of that, and he ate and ate and ate until his belly was full. And he said, man, that was a delicious meal. I'm gonna go home and take a nap. So Bob left the Chinese buffet, and he went home and he took a nap. Then Bob woke up, because that's what you do after you take a nap. Well, at least most people. Some people don't wake up from naps, but those people are dead. So we won't talk about them. We're talking about Bob. So Bob woke up, and Bob woke up with a tummy ache. So, what do you do when you got a tummy ache? Well, you can take a tum, you can lay down, or you can go to the bathroom. Bob chose to go to the bathroom because, well, that's what he chose to do. And he figured, well, if I'm in the bathroom, I could take a tum, or I could lay down. But Bob didn't choose to lay down or take a tum in the bathroom. He chose to sit on the toilet. So Bob sat on the toilet, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And he's like, man, my stomach really hurts. Whatever shall I do? So Bob got up and paced back and forth on the bathroom floor. He's like, man, what am I gonna do? My stomach really hurts. I really just need to get this out. And he's like, okay, well, the only way I'm gonna feel any better is if I poop. And he's like, well, I can't poop. Maybe I'll throw up. So he tried to throw up, and he couldn't throw up. And he's like, man, I really need to poop. And so he sat back down on the toilet. Sat, and he sat, and he sat. He sat so long he started to doze off. When he woke up, he realized, oh man, there's a pretty big poop in this toilet. So he's like, man, whew, we better get rid of that. So he flushed the toilet, because that's what you do after you take a poop. And at least most people. But other people don't, because they're just gross like that. So he flushed the toilet, and he went over and washed his hands, and while he was washing his hands, he noticed the toilet was still flowing. And he looked over and he's like, oh crud, the toilet's overflowing. So he looked underneath the sink, because that's where he keeps the plunger. And he didn't see it there. And he's like, oh no, whatever shall I do? So he figured, you know what? I'll run to the neighbor's house. So he knocked on the neighbor's door, started yelling at the door. He's like, man, I need to borrow a plunger. My toilet's overflowing. Neighbors didn't answer the door. He went and banged on the window. He's like, hey, anybody in there? Hello, I know you hear me. I hear the TV on. Hello? Nobody still answered. So he ran to his other next door neighbor. Banged on their door, banged on their window. He's like, man, where is everybody? It's almost like it's a zombie apocalypse or something. There's nobody home. He's like, no, it couldn't be the zombie apocalypse. This is a Thursday. That doesn't happen on Thursdays. So he's like, but whatever shall I do? Because meanwhile, my toilet's overflowing, and I need a plunger. He thought, well, I could break into one of the neighbors' houses, but then I might get arrested. And then if I got arrested, I'd go to jail. And jail doesn't happen for good people. And I'm a good person. So I can't go to jail. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to run down the road. There's a Lowe's down the road. They sell plungers. So that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Lowe's. So, meanwhile, he hopped in his car and ran down to Lowe's because that's where they sell plungers. So, he got to Lowe's, and not only couldn't he find the plungers, he couldn't find any customer, associate people, helpers to help him find the plungers. So he had to go up and down every single aisle trying to look for the plungers. Finally, he stumbled onto the plungers. Guess where he stumbled onto them? Guess. Go ahead and guess. I bet you're going to guess he stumbled onto them on the very last aisle. But you'd be wrong. They were on aisle number 2. Why were they on aisle number 2? Well, you see, Bob had a superstition. Bob didn't like even things. So when Bob went to Lowe's, he went down every other aisle. He only went down the odd numbered aisles. He didn't go down aisle number 2. Had he went down aisle number 2, it would have been the second aisle he went down. But since he didn't go down aisle number 2, aisle number 3 was the aisle he went down. And he didn't find any plungers down there. But he ended up finding them in aisle number 2. But he couldn't go down aisle number 2. So he had to find one of the other customers in the store and said, hey, can you go down this aisle and get me a plunger? The guy kind of looked at him kind of weird and said, no, you're crazy. I'm not doing that for you. And so he left. So Bob kind of just sat at the end of the aisle and started crying. Little old guy came up and he's like, hey, can I help you? He's like, well, I would love you to help me. He's like, what can I help you with today? He's like, well, I can't go down this aisle, but I need a plunger. The guy starts looking at him like, why can't you go down this aisle? Bob says, I'm afraid of the number 2. He's like, well, usually, I mean, it's a natural thing. I mean, your body just normally does number 2. You don't have to be afraid of it. And he's like, no, I'm afraid of aisle number 2. And the guy's like, oh, I thought you meant the other number 2. He's like, no, I'm not afraid of that. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm here to get a plunger. I'm here because of number 2. He's like, I thought you're afraid of number 2. No, I'm not afraid of number 2. I'm afraid of the number 2. The guy's like, I don't quite understand what you're getting at here, but I'll go get you a plunger. The guy goes down the plunger aisle, comes back with 3 different plungers. He's like, which one would you like? Bob says, well, which one's the cheapest? And he's like, well, you know what? I didn't think to look at the prices. I just figured I'd pick you one of each and you just pick one and go. You said you needed a plunger. It didn't really matter what price it was. He's like, well, I'm always out for a good bargain. He's like, okay, well, hold on 1 minute. So the other guy goes back down the aisle and he comes back and he's like, well, this one's $9.99. This one's $14.99, and this one's $12.99, but it's on sale for $9.99. So which one would you like? Bob's like, well, you mean there's 2 for $9.99? The guy's like, well, yeah, actually. Bob's like, well, crud, now which one? What am I gonna do? You know what? Give me both. That way in case one breaks. So he goes up to the cash register and he's like, I need to buy these plungers. And he's like, why do you need 2 plungers? Well, just in case one breaks. She's like, how are you gonna break a plunger, sir? He's like, well, see, it all started when I went to the Chinese buffet. She's like, sir, I don't need to know the entire story. All I need to know is why you need 2 plungers. He's like, well, I'm getting to that if you just listen. I went to the Chinese buffet. Then I fell asleep on the toilet, and when I woke up, I realized there was a giant poo in the toilet. So I went to flush it, and it overflowed. The lady's like, okay. So I'm figuring if it's a giant poo, and it's overflowing, I might break one trying to plunge it. She's like, sir, that is way too much information. That'll be $10. The guy's like, $10? I thought they were $9.99. We're having a sale. It's buy one, get one free. The guy's like, well, but they're not the same plungers. She's like, I know. Just take your plungers and get out of here. The guy's like, Bob said, okay, I'll take both my plungers for $10. He's like, can I please get a receipt just in case I need to return one? She's like, sir, you cannot return a used plunger. Bob's like, good point. Love it. I'll be on my way. So Bob takes his plungers, he goes, gets in his car, and he heads back home. He's like, you know what? Getting kind of hungry. That Chinese buffet wore off pretty quick. So he starts to pull into McDonald's, because he's like, you know what, French fries sound really good. But he starts to pull in, he's like, you know what, the line's way too long, and I got a toilet that's overflowing at home. It's probably doing some pretty mean damage to my bathroom right now. I should probably get home. So Bob runs back home. He's like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. As soon as I get home, I'm gonna throw a burrito in the microwave. While that's microwaving, I'll plunge the toilet. By the time I'm done plunging the toilet, 2.5 minutes will be up. My burrito will be ready. I'll have an empty toilet, empty stomach. I can sit down and enjoy a burrito and celebrate my success. Things didn't work out as Bob planned. Bob went home and Bob put that burrito in his microwave. Bob accidentally pressed an extra 0. He put it in for 23 minutes. Bob didn't realize this at first, so he went into the bathroom and started plunging. Plunging away. Plunging away. Could never get it. Snaps the handle right off the first plunger. He's like, man, I'm glad I bought that second one. Man, so glad I bought that second one. So he tosses the broken one to the side. He's like, I'll pick that up later. Grabs the second plunger, starts plunging away. He's like, dude, what am I gonna do? How am I ever gonna get this poo out of the toilet? How in the world did I poo this much? He's plunging away. Microwave's still going. He doesn't realize it. He thinks time's just passing by real quietly, or he doesn't pay attention to the fact that, you know, it's 23 minutes and not 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Starts smelling something coming from the kitchen. He's like, what the heck is that smell? Goes in the kitchen, sees it's full of smoke. Oh no, whatever shall I do? Rips open the microwave door. Kitchen starts filling up with smoke because he burned his burrito. You're not supposed to make burritos for 23 minutes because that turns out really bad. They turn out black and charcoaly, and, you know, just saying don't do it. Anyways, takes his burrito out of the microwave, tosses it in the trash because that's what you do with a burnt burrito. He's like, man, dang it, I was really looking forward to that burrito. So he throws a second burrito in the microwave, makes sure he pushes 2 minutes and 30 seconds this time. I gotta get back to that toilet. Meanwhile, water's flowing everywhere, flowing all over the floor, you know, it's going down the hallway, soaking the carpet in his bedroom now because it's just continually running. He's like, what am I gonna do? Gets on the phone, calls a plumber. Like, plumber? He's like, I have a name, sir. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Plumber. It's like, my name is not Mr. Plumber. It's Bob. Oh, what a coincidence. My name's Bob, too. Hi, Bob. Okay, sir, now that we're done with the formalities, can I help you? Yes, as a matter of fact, my toilet's overflowing. Okay, sir, have you tried plunging it? Yes, as a matter of fact, I've tried with 2 different plungers. 2 plungers, sir? Why, yes, the first one broke. I'm glad I picked up the second one. Sir? Have you tried shutting off the water to your toilet? You can do that? Yes, sir. Yes, that'll at least prevent it from overflowing into the floor anymore. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, sir, until we get there, there's a little valve back behind the toilet. Just turn it clockwise, it'll shut off the water, and you can go from there. At least it won't be overflowing onto the floor anymore. Well, thank you, sir. Sir, I said I have a name. Okay, I'm sorry. Bob, sir. So you'll be on your way? Yes. We'll be there in about 15 minutes, because they are right down the road. It doesn't take them very long to get there, thankfully, because Bob had an emergency and he needed something quick. So, Bob turns off the water, and it stops flowing onto the floor at least. So Bob's like, well, not much more I can do. Here's a microwave beep. He goes in the kitchen, goes to get his burrito, sits down, enjoys his burrito. Next thing you know, there's a knock on the door. He's like, oh, that must be Bob, the plumber guy. So he goes and he opens the door, and it's not Bob, the plumber guy. It's one of his neighbors. He's like, did I hear you knocking on my door and my window a little while ago? Bob's like, well, yes, I was. I was looking for a plunger. Ah, sorry, I took a nap. That's why you couldn't hear me? I was almost breaking into your house just to steal your plunger. Like, well, it's a good thing you didn't do that because you go to jail, and you're a good guy, and good guys don't go to jail. He's like, yeah, that's why I decided to go to Lowe's and buy a plunger. Oh, how'd the plunger work out for you? Well, I actually bought two. 2 plungers? Well, yeah, just in case. And he went and told him the whole story yet again about how he broke the plunger, about how it, caused him to overheat the burrito and caused him to, fill up his kitchen full of smoke and everything like that. Okay, well, is there anything I can do for you? Why, yes, as a matter of fact, there is. You can sit outside my house and wait to see when Bob the plumber shows up. When Bob the plumber shows up, make sure to direct him towards my house. Go ahead and let him in, because I'm going to be in the bathroom still plunging. So, time passes. Looks at his watch, he's like, man, Bob's running awfully late. It's been almost an hour, and the guy said he was going to be here in 15 minutes. Like, where is he? So he gets back on the phone, he calls Bob the plumber. Gets back on the phone with Bob the plumber, he's like, I thought you were going to be here in 15 minutes. Bob the plumber says, yeah, sorry, I got caught in traffic, I'm on my way. Bob says, okay, well, I'm still waiting for you, I'm in the bathroom, I'm plunging away, still trying to get this taken care of. My neighbor's outside, and he's waiting for you, he's going to direct you into my house. He's like, okay, I'll be there as quick as I can. Another 10 minutes passes, and Bob the plumber shows up. Pulls up in the driveway, and he's like, sees the guy in the driveway. He's like, so is this the right house? Neighbor guy says, yeah, this is the right house. Follow me. Bob the plumber gets as close as he can and starts walking up to the house, and he's like, man, what is that smell? That must be overflowing the toilet. He's like, yeah, it's pretty bad in there. You might want to be careful when you walk in. It's kind of squishy here and there, and you might want to wear some rubber boots or something like that, because there's water everywhere. Plumber's like, yeah, I've seen it all. I've smelt it all. I'm dealing with it. It's gonna be all right. We're gonna get past this. So he gets inside the house, gets out his little snake thingy, and starts roto-rooting the drain for the sewer plumber toilet thingy. He's in there about 20 minutes, and finally clears it. Finally clears the line. Water starts, gushes. Turns back on the water. They flushed it a few times. It's like, sir, I think we've succeeded. Bob's so excited. He's like, Bob, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to be sure to recommend you to all my friends and neighbors and all this other stuff. So the plumber says, you know what? We've got to, you might want to work on getting this all cleaned up. It's quite the mess you got going on here. Bob's like, yeah, I know. I couldn't do nothing else. It was, overflowing. I had to get a plunger, and I couldn't do nothing else about it, so I had to just let it keep flowing. He's like, sir, that water's going to be around for a while. It may have done some water damage to your floors. You may want to get that looked at by a contractor or something later on down the road. He's like, that smell. My goodness, what did you have for lunch, dude? It's like, well, I just had Chinese buffet. Like, what'd you have for breakfast? Well, I skipped breakfast this morning because, we were going to have Chinese buffet, and I want all my space for it. It's like, I'm a plumber, and I've smelled some pretty bad stuff in my life, but my goodness, how are you going to ever get that smell out of this house? He's like, well, I got some Febreze, and I got all this other stuff. I'll light some candles and some potpourri or something, because that's what people do to get rid of smells. So they start walking out of the house. He's like, bill will be in the mail. We'll make sure to settle up at a later date, because I can't deal with that smell anymore. Plumber's like, man, after that, I don't know if I can deal with this plumbing stuff anymore. That's by far the worst house I have ever been in. The worst water damage, the worst smelling poop that I have ever smelled in my entire life. I don't know what this guy eats on a regular basis to make it smell that bad. So he walks out of the house and tries to get a whiff of fresh air. He's like, whew, okay, my goodness, I'm glad I'm outside. Takes a big whiff, and he's like, holy cow, how does it smell so bad out here? It didn't smell as bad when I came outside. So he looks over to his right, and his left, and he's looking around. He's like, man, what is that stench? Looks over, and
neighbor guy's standing there. And he's like, have you ever smelled this nasty smell outside this guy's house before? What smell are you smelling? Like, you don't smell that? Oh my goodness, I'm a plumber and I've never smelled anything this bad before. The guy's like, no, I don't smell nothing at all. He's like, man, I don't know what that guy had to eat, but man, I'm done with this job. I'm giving it up. I'm gonna go be an ice cream truck driver or something like that. I gotta smell good stuff the rest of my life. I can't deal with this. So he starts leaving and he's like, gets in his truck and he's like, okay, well at least it smells good in here. He gets back out because he forgot to close the hatch of his truck and he's like, man, good night. Terrible out here. It smells good inside. What the heck? Goes around to the back of his truck to close the hatch, and there's that neighbor guy just standing there again. It's like, I just want to thank you for helping out my neighbor here. And reaches out his hands to shake his hand, looks down at the neighbor's hand. He's like, oh my goodness, what do you got all over your hand? Oh, yeah, I forgot I ran out of toilet paper earlier. So, yeah, sorry, let me use this other hand. Goes to shake its other hand. Yeah, sorry, it was a pretty, it was a pretty messy one. He's like, can we just forgo the handshake and I'm just getting out of here. The plumber jumps back in his truck, forgets to close the hatch of his truck and everything like that. Zooms off down the road. He's like,
nope.
Holy cow. That has to be the smelliest, nastiest person I've ever seen in my entire life. And once again, I work as a plumber. I've smelled and seen some nasty stuff. Leaves for the day, goes home and tells his wife about everything going on. He's like, man, you wouldn't believe the day I've had, the places I've been, the smells I've smelled. Holy cow, it's terrible. And he starts telling her about this guy named Bob and how he went to this guy's house and fixed the guy's toilet and how it, went all over the floor and all this nasty stuff and how this guy's never going to get rid of the stench and the water damage. And goes into detail about how nasty the neighbor was. She's like, where'd you say that guy lived? He's like, well, he's over on 5th Street. Where at on 5th Street, his wife asked. I don't know, it's 3112, I think it was. She's like, 31. Hey, wait a minute. She's like, what? My dad lives over there. He's like, where? She's like, he lives over on 5th Street. He's like, oh yeah? Maybe I was right by him. She's like, it's been a while since I've been over to his house. Let me give him a holler real quick. So she gets on the phone and calls up her dad. She's like, hey Dad, I was thinking about stopping by this weekend. I know you haven't been at that house for very long, and I haven't been over there very many times. What was the address again? 3110. So she gets off the phone, goes talk to her husband, Bob the plumber, and she's like, 3110. And he's like, you gotta be kidding me. She's like, what? That would be the neighbor I'm talking about. She's like, what? He's like, 3110 would be right next door to 3112. I just was talking about your smelly dad. That would be our kids' smelly grandpa. So, she's like, that's not very nice. You shouldn't call him smelly. She's like, you should call him odorous or fragrant. She's like, there was nothing fragrant about this guy. She's like, that's not very nice. So they get into a big old argument over how smelly her dad is. Kids walk in, she's like, what are you guys arguing about? Nothing, honey. We're arguing about your smelly grandpa. Get out of here. What? Nothing, dears. Go back to bed. I said we're arguing about your smelly grandpa, kids. So that the plumber and his wife get into a big old fight. Breaks up their marriage. She moves out, takes the kids with her. And now the poor Bob the plumber only sees his kids on the weekends. But that's okay, because when he sees them on the weekends, there's one place he makes sure that they never go, and that's to their smelly grandpas. The end.